Hello and welcome. My name is Maya Joy Kana, and today I'd like to speak about this Venus retrograde period that we are in right now and what it means for our hearts and souls. And today I'm coming to you from a clairvoyant perspective. I'm a psychic, and so I'm sort of feeling into what does this Venus retrograde mean for us and blending that with what we know it means astrologically speaking. And so we are having this Venus retrograde from May 13th to June 25th of 2020, Venus retrograde in Gemini. And the most important thing for all of us to know is that during this Venus retrograde, we must surrender. We must surrender to this process. Throughout the Venus retrograde, we may have many thoughts and feelings about our love and relationships and value. And this Venus retrograde process is a 6-week process for a reason. And so while it's so important to meet ourselves at every moment with where we are and where our thoughts are, we also have to understand that this is a journey that we are moving through, a profound journey into the depths of our hearts and the depths of our beings. And we have to allow that journey to unfold. So while this Gemini energy might make our minds want to say, but yeah, I want to understand right now and I want to come to decisions right now, our heart is saying, let the journey unfold. So between now and June 26th of 2020, we could deep dive into old thoughts and feelings about past relationships or past values. We could find ourselves thinking and reflecting on our whole life and asking big questions about what we really want and what we really desire. And in every moment, I think it's so critical for us to meet ourselves where we are, but also understand that this isn't the time to make big decisions. This isn't a time when we want to try to push forward. This is a time to be led by the experience of our heart and mind. And when this is all over and done with, when we get to the 26th of June in 2020, that's when we'll naturally have arrived at the proper conclusions about how to move forward on our path. That's when the process will have unfolded naturally. But between now and then, the best thing that we can do is surrender. And the best thing that we can do is observe our thoughts, but not necessarily attach to our thoughts. To me, the biggest sort of configuration of astrological significance through this Venus retrograde is that we have Venus square to Neptune. And this can feel like a stressful aspect because it can tell ourselves, like, we can feel like our mind is telling us one thing about a certain situation or a certain person or things like that. And then at the same time, it can be in conflict with what our intuition is telling us. And the Venus and the Gemini energy wants to gather facts and wants to take the logical route. And the Neptune energy is in touch with something more. It's in touch with the spiritual dimension of love or the spiritual dimension of money or these Venusian qualities. And a lot of us can fear Neptune. We can fear that Neptune energy because we say, oh, my intuition is telling me this. But what if it's an illusion? What if what I'm tuning into is not real? What if I take a leap of faith and it doesn't take me anywhere? What if I'm exposed through that process? And the mind will just ruminate on those kinds of questions. But with this aspect, with this square, what we have to understand is that the truth lies between. The truth lies between that Neptune and Pisces, that beautiful spiritual dream for something more in our lives, something of greater value, a higher love, and that Venus in Gemini that wants the answers right here, right now, and is overly logical in some cases, or overly mental, that the answer lies in the in-between. That while our mind goes through this process of rethinking everything in this Venus area in our life, wherever Gemini falls in your chart, well, the mind goes through that process, and that's a sacred process in and of itself. Sometimes we have to question. Sometimes we have to ask those questions, or our mind wants to understand. And we have these minds for a reason to understand these things. Often what I find with retrograde is that, if you think about, okay, you might have been pretty sure about your love life, or, you might have been pretty sure, say May 1st. Or something like that before this Venus retrograde started, or about your financial life, or whatever area of your life is ruled by Gemini in your chart. You might have been pretty sure about that. And over this 6-week period, you might question everything. You might question everything. And then when it's all said and done and we get to July 1st, you might feel the exact same way that you did. You might have the exact same thoughts or understandings that you actually had on May 1st, before this all began. And yet, there will be such a greater sense of assuredness due to the questioning that you went through during this time. The retrograde times have something profound to offer us. It's like the universe is saying to us, here's your sacred pause. Here's your sacred pause. Here's the time to go within and reflect on how this planetary energy is sitting within your own being. And sometimes we do that reflection, and we actually realize that that planetary energy was sitting just fine within our being. And then when that planet moves direct again, then we just go forward on the plan that we're already on. Sometimes when we sit within our being, some of us are sitting within our being right now, and we're really questioning our relationships, really questioning our values, really questioning whatever area in our life is ruled by Gemini. And what we're going to find is that, maybe you were on a path and you were just pushing forward, you were just going forward in that relationship, let's just go. And maybe, during this slowdown, maybe when you really think about it and you really feel into it, it's I don't know, I don't feel as great about that as I thought that I did. So some of us are going to make these sort of sacred refinements during this period. And then when we move forth, it'll be down a whole new path. But the thing is that it's going to be different for everyone. But Venus retrograde will give you exactly what you need. And it's going to give all of us exactly what we need. But we have to let the process unfold naturally. We have to let ourselves move through this process and not let that Gemini part of us say, no, we got to make a decision right now, or we have to understand right now. You don't have to understand right now. If you're listening to this and it's still May or it's early June, or you don't have to make a decision right now. Let the thoughts arise. Let yourself move through this process of deepening your understanding. And although it can be a challenge when our mind is in conflict with our intuition, I've always found that there's something of great benefit to gain from that. And there always is a middle road. What your intuition is telling you is not fantasy. What your intuition is tapped into something real. And often when it comes to Venus and it comes to relationships and things like that, our heart and soul knows. Your soul knows. Your heart knows. When you meet somebody who's special to your soul, your intuition knows. You may not know how you know, but you just know. Our intuition never gets that wrong. Like when we meet somebody and they're connected to our soul, something pings within our being and says, this is familiar, this is important, this soul and my soul, we are connected. And our minds can drive us absolutely crazy, asking how, why, what, when, and all this kind of stuff, and trying to understand it. So much of what's just totally natural to us as souls, so much of this Neptune and Pisces stuff, it is so vast and so sacred that it can't really be explained or understood by the mind. And yet it's really essential for us to be able to walk in between these two worlds, you know? So our soul might tell us, oh my gosh, you know, this person like is a sacred soul connection, and I feel a higher love like flowing through this person, and there's a spiritual beauty between us that is so sacred and so profound and so healing and so dreamlike and so amazing. And then our mind might tell us, but here's all these reasons why it's not going to work out with that person, or these sorts of things. And we have to understand that what is playing out on this earth plane is exactly what is meant to play out. And we have the brains to we have them for a reason. We have our brains for a reason. We have that ability to talk and for a reason, all of that Gemini stuff, and to understand things intellectually for a reason. But the greatest understanding comes from our soul. And we're here to let our thoughts gently become informed by our intuition. And that's where I think the beauty of this sort of divine marriage between, you know, this Gemini energy and this Pisces energy really is. It's like, okay, well, my mind wants to think and talk and figure this out. My intuition just wants to feel it and trust it. What if I allow both? And I don't make that a conflict unnecessarily, but what if I allow both? What if I allow myself to actually ask those questions? What if this spiritual dream that lies within me, whether that's for a certain relationship or a certain career or a certain whatever you value, what if I allow my mind to start working for me? What if I allow my mind to start believing? What if I allow my mind to start asking the question, what if this is real? You know, what if this is real? What if I allow my mind to and my spiritual vision to start to merge as one? What if? What if I allow myself to actually talk about or write about that sacred vision that's coming from within my being? You know, somehow each of us in our own way will find a resolution to this square between Venus and Neptune. All of us will in our own way. And even though this can be felt as a stressful aspect, and it was exact yesterday, and I think a lot of us could feel that. It's like, I have this vision, I have this sense, but right now I feel a lot of conflict around it, or a lot of confusion around it. It's okay to feel confused. Ultimately, everything that is playing out on the earth plane is playing out exactly as it should. Ultimately, everything that is truly of value, Venus, everything that is truly of value to your soul is going to come to you. It's going to come to you. And you don't have to understand how. And you don't have to understand anything about it. You don't have to know anything about it. What's truly ours will come into our life. And I think that's one of the most beautiful and reassuring things about life. It's okay, if I surrender, I will be led to the path of greatest value. If I surrender the need to really know and understand, and if I surrender the need to direct my life, and I let God direct my life, and I let my soul direct my life, and I start to trust in I start to trust in that spiritual vision and dream, and I start to let my mind work for my intuition, helping me understand how I can bring that dream into reality, and start to speak about that dream and start to make it real. Wow, beautiful things can happen. Wow, so beautiful things can happen. And when it comes to love and it comes to relationships, what I found is those special souls with whom we have soul contracts, those special soulmate connections and things like that, they're going to come into your life no matter what. And our mind can berate us and say, oh, I said the wrong thing, I did the wrong thing, or blah, 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 and just drive us crazy. But it's like, when it's right, and you can't really do the wrong thing or say the wrong thing. So there's this amazing, amazing reassurance there. So go through this transit. Move through this transit without needing to come to final conclusions. Let it guide you. Ask, okay, what's coming into my life today? Like, so many astrologers say things just like, okay, if it's Venus retrograde, old loves are going to come back into your life, and don't talk to them. Like, don't answer their messages because they're from the past. What if that wasn't true? Like, what if you recognize that person coming back into your life, like, for the amazing soul connection that they were? And what if, like, you trusted that they were coming back for a reason? And what if you brought your heart to bear on that situation and you spoke to them about your soul connection and about the healing and about the growth? And what if you trusted that everything's unfolding, and even all the thoughts that are in your head and even all the confusing thoughts, what if you trusted that it was all for a reason and that it was all unfolding exactly as it should? I think this Venus retrograde is going to give every single one of us exactly what we need. And all we need to do is just get in that boat and be carried down the river, through this process, and trust that whatever this Venus retrograde is bringing us, even if it feels like an inner conflict, it's exactly what we need to have the love life of our dreams, to bring into our life that which we value when Venus moves direct. And anyway, I just encourage you all to surrender to this process. It's not the time to push forward. If you feel that union, I will say, for people that are feeling like they need to make a change, and you do have that union between heart and mind, and your mind is telling you, I know this is the right path for you because it is logical, and your intuition is saying, and I know it's the right path for me because I feel it is, and you're aligned in heart and mind, that means you've already resolved the square. And that means that it can be time for you to take that action. But for most of us, we're going to be working with this square energy. Let it work within your being. Okay? Venus retrograde has a gift for every single one of us. And even though it can be frustrating to have some of these relational issues and things come up for us during this 6 weeks, like, it's ultimately every single one of us is going to take a big leap forward in our understanding of what we truly love, what we truly value, what relationships are in our highest good when all of this moves forward. And listen, you are amazing. You're an amazing soul. You planned this all in advance, and everything that's playing out right now is unfolding exactly as it should. And really, there's nothing that you need to do right now except just be. Be. Take this time to reflect. Take this time to tune into your greater dream, the dream of your soul for love and relationships and values, and trust in the Venusian magic, okay? Everything will turn out perfectly. So, big hugs to all of you who are listening today. I hope you received today from this a message that you needed. And take heart. Take heart. Everything will unfold exactly as it should. So thank you for listening today, and namaste.